Welcome to a special video. Today we are joined by Gearbox. So we have two members of the team here. Let's see how to say your name. So we have Mikhail, if I'm saying that correct. Is that right?
Yes, it's correct. Hi to everyone and thanks for invitation.
Fantastic. And we also have Matt, you're right in front of your name. It's in purple text. Is it Ilgis?
Ilgis, yeah.
Hey, I was right, kind of, almost. Ilgis. Well, you know what? Everyone calls me Stefan, so people mispronounce names all the time. Ilgis and Mikhail, wonderful. Thanks for dropping by. Gearbox is kind of blowing up again. It's sort of was huge during LTIP season, and then their OP incentives and the Superfest went into a bit of a lull. You guys were building, shipping, and now it's coming back into like the zeitgeist. Can you just quickly describe what Gearbox is for people who may not have seen it before?
Yes, I can start. Maybe will add something to my definition. So Gearbox is a lending protocol. And the idea is a very simple. Imagine you have some assets on your account and you can borrow against this asset without locking that. In all other protocols, you should lock something to borrow something. In Gearbox, all assets on your account are still liquid, and we use hooks to keep all money on your account and make the protocol over-collateralized. Ilgis, your turn.
Yeah, so actually, as Mikhail mentioned, it's lending, but with a bit different mechanics in comparison with pool-based lendings. So here, I guess, we are pretty unique, building it since 2021, least since 2021, so like quite long story. Everything works actually as planned. No any kind of security incidents, no bad debt. So we are pretty much focused on security side. Yeah, and continue shipping and delivering new features. So yeah, I guess we'll touch it today during this conversation.
So, Mikhail, you said something really interesting. You said that all of your assets are still effectively liquid while also being utilized as collateral. This is kind of confusing. So, do you mean that they're in your non-custodial wallet that you can connect to via Rabby or MetaMask, or is it like you have accounts on Gearbox and then within those you can swap between your collaterals or your debt assets? How does that work?
Thanks for a question. The idea is a very simple. So what happens with normal lending? For example, you have ETH and you have USDC. You want to really take USDC as collateral, and then you want to borrow ETH. So you lock USDC and you get some lock token. And then against this money, you can borrow ETH on your account. Or to make a leverage, you should use looping. What makes Gearbox literally different? In Gearbox, you use a credit account, and credit account itself, the easiest way to explain is a smart contract wallet or account abstraction wallet, doesn't matter. So you have some initial money, this USDC, and then you borrow ETH. So what happens on the step one? You have, for example, 10K of USDC, and you borrow 2 ETH. And now on your account, these two assets both are available. So you have 10 USDC and you have 2 ETH. And all of them could be used across any connected protocol. When you make a transaction, you can probably go to Uniswap and swap USDC into another token, or put ETH into some RT. We have a hook. We check that you have enough collateral after all operation in the batch. So literally, for example, you take ETH and put into RT, and now you have 10K USDC, they were untouched, and 1 RT. And then we check, is it enough money to pay the debt back? If it's enough, the transaction is minted. If we can detect that money is not enough, such transaction could be reverted. So literally, you couldn't steal money. Such transaction, when you try to take more money than you have, will be reverted at any case. However, as I said, USDC and ETH are both liquid and could be used for different strategies. And of course, another question I believe listeners are asking for, what happens if the price could change dramatically? In this case, we have liquidations and it works similar. So we just sell the asset, which is not underlying, to underlying one and pay the debt back. So there is no different mechanics like established in majority of lending protocols. However, the competitive advantage is that all assets are liquid and it's much easier, less gas consumable, etc., to use this for different strategies.
Okay, so let's go back to that liquidation mechanism because that was interesting. You said you sell the
Yeah, so you have an
the borrow-
underlying asset. Yeah,
Right,
so
that's the
in our
collateral, right?
case, yes,
that the-
underlying asset is the asset which debt is nominated.
Got
In
it.
our
Okay.
example, we had a 10K
to
USDC and we borrow ETH here. So our debt is nominated in ETH. If the ETH price will go up and it would be that USDC is not enough to cover the debt, at this case, we have some buffer and the system will allow third-party liquidator to sell this USDC into ETH. In other case, you have some kind of discount in the system. So, for example, you have a market price, maybe like a 4K, and then you get a discount and you can buy some asset with some amount of discount, like 3-5%, to make it profitable for you. And then we get ETH, which our debt nominated is, and use it to cover the debt. So everything happened automatically. And it's a very simple way. So literally you borrow some funds, then you use them for different strategies. If the prices are changed, we just unwrap your strategy to asset you borrow and pay the debt back. So literally pretty native idea.
Okay, so if you had, let's just say like ETH, and then you can swap your collateral, right? So you had USDC. So let's say you have USDC as collateral, ETH as your debt, and then you swap that collateral to, say, I don't know, SUSDE or SUSD to get some yield on it or whatever it might be. And then ETH rises, that would trigger liquidation. No matter what collateral asset you have, that would be converted to ETH to ensure that, liquidation can no longer occur. And maybe there's some sort of premium that a liquidator would receive for doing that action.
Yes, one addition that you can use a multi-collateral. So in Gearbox, you are not limited with only one asset. So literally you can have some portfolio. For example, in our case, we have ETH and USDC, but you can add any other few assets if you want. And the liquidator, of course, will decide which asset he wants to swap back into ETH in our case. I guess maybe you also can add some mass stuff for liquidations.
So one thing I'm noticing is like with WETH as an example, I have 4 different collateral choices and then a lot of them are grayed out. Why are some options gray or non-selectable here in the collateral?
Yeah, just because you don't have it in your wallet. So as you can see,
It's a skill issue. Okay. So any collateral effectively that I see here can be used to then borrow WETH. So we have these different rates. And is it a weighted average? Let's just say I have DAI, Convex, and Steth. All of these have different borrow rates for ETH. Is the borrow rate then weighted by the amount of collateral I have?
yeah, actually in Gearbox there is a bit different borrow pricing model. So there are 2 components of it. First one is depends on utilization. So when you borrow Ethereum, there is the Ethereum pool and we have some utilization in it. Yeah. And similar to when other lendings, there is like the higher utilization, the higher this rate. And another part is that you pay additional quota fee for using different types of collateral. So it's actually can be understand as like different collaterals have different risks. So you as a user actually pay for liquidity provider different yield for like different risk level. So for example, if it's Ethereum, it's kind of less volatile assets. If you compare with some like LIDA or Lean, for example, yeah. So LIDA and Lean goes with a bit higher risk. So borrow rate could be like a bit different. Yeah. So actually like later, like when you open position, you actually type how much collateral you wanna deposit inside your credit account, and how much quota you want to get for this collateral. And this borrow rate will be applied for your quota of this type of collateral. And as a result, you have some average that you pay for overall your position.
Okay, so I mean, a really easy example is if I was paying 2% to borrow against EtherFi ETH and 6% to borrow against USDC, and I had roughly 50% collateral in either one of those, my average would probably be around 4%. Fantastic. One weighted averages.
And yes, and it's very, very understandable. So in Gearbox, we literally focused on things like LPs, and just imagine VLP, and you provide some money into the pool, for example, VAS. And of course, the premium depends on risk. So it's a two totally different situation when someone put your ETH into stake Ethereum, for example, which looks literally safe, or into more risky asset like a new RT you never tested. If you have a one pool when everyone can borrow with the same yield, it will motivate people to put your money into the risky bucket. At the same time, you as a pool owner, just imagine you just one LP. Of course, LP could be, we could have much more LPs, but it doesn't matter. So LPs provide their money. This money are used for more risky asset, but they still get some very safe part. At this case, it's much better to have a different rates which represent current risk and create a fair distribution of profits. And in this case, Gearbox is a very good example how profits are fairly distributed between strategists who really make a decision which asset could make more yield for them, and LPs who really get a normal equation, and it's done through gauges, and maybe Gis could go across the application and explain better how rates are set up and during the voting process.
Well, so my understanding of this is, we saw rates kind of go high when SUSD was blowing up, and it was 25, 35% during, the sort of raging portion of the bull market because of funding rates. And people were willing to pay, 20% even higher to borrow stables against SUSDE. And so that particular market had high borrow cost, whereas other market, you could still borrow from the same pool USDC against ETH or something, and that was only, 7%. And so the lenders there, and correct me if I'm wrong, the lenders here were getting a weighted average of all of the borrowed USDC. So they were benefiting from the high risk users paying a high interest rate on SUSDE, and also benefiting from the WETH collateralizers who were borrowing at a lower rate. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I love this. And I also saw you guys are kind of entering into the BTC-Fi arena. BTC-Fi, it's exploded. We could just look at the ETH BTC chart to see why. It's very, very painful and down only. Or if you look at BTC ETH chart, it's up only. BTC is doing phenomenal against ETH for the past 3 years. As someone who has been an ETH maxi for a lot of that time, it has hurt. But now I'm finally in Bitcoin. Pat myself on the back because there's things to do with it. You guys added TBTC. It looks like you still have quite a bit to borrow there and wrap Bitcoin. And I saw here in borrow, there was all sorts of PT BTCs as collateral. What is Gearbox's sort of thesis on the BTC-Fi arena?
Yeah, actually, we're building lending infrastructure, so it's kind of allows a lot of different use cases. And as we can see here, a lot of demand for BTC-Fi, Lombard, SFI, BTC Pendle on top of it. So we actually just using it to onboard this group of people, so they could get leverage for it to multiply the strategies and capital to deploy into these strategies. And our status here, we see demand for BTC-Fi, and we do push from our side for BTC-Fi assets, BTC-Fi pools, and maybe later even for some networks who actually will be launched on top of BTC as a side chain. So that's also as one of the options that we're considering. Yeah.
So, I was thinking earlier today of lending LBTC or EBTC because Pendle is estimating these things around 6 to 7% and then playing the looping and leveraging game. But one thing we've also seen, and we've seen this from like RE7, MEV, Steakhouse, even just like bigger institutions, is they want to play with institutional capital, tapping into some of these pre-existing money markets. I know you guys are also now doing some institutional adjacent work. Can you kind of explain what the institutional instances of gearboxes are, or what those are all about?
Yeah. Actually, like we're working on instance with Nexa, so I guess we can say more in coming few weeks. Yeah, idea is that institutional money can be used inside Gearbox to as a passive side and leverage side, depending like on their risk appetites. Yeah.
So is this effectively just that they will come in and they can either do lending directly or they can do,
I guess this idea actually comes with our let's say of protocol, which could be called as permissionless Gearbox. And the idea behind it is that any external player could come to Gearbox, use it as Lego blocks to build their own lending and provide this service to their customers for maybe their own capital to deploy it inside this modular lending that they built using Gearbox lending blocks. Yeah.
So is this sort of like the curator model that we've seen before, where a curator will come in, sort of spin up a market for a specific type of collateral or a specific type of set of assets, and that will cater to the institution's sort of wishes or demands?
Yeah, I'd say on narrative side, it's very similar. On technical side, I guess it's a bit different. And Mikhail, please go ahead, share a bit more context regarding technical implementations and how all of these Lego blocks works, enabling permissionless Gearbox.
Yeah, so the Gearbox itself, as we said, has a few differences with other markets. The first part is a multi-collateral, so you can build any kind of things when you have one asset you can borrow, and then you have a multiple collaterals, which is a pretty cool. So it's like you can build more complex things when you can set up this stuff. Another part, what we already mentioned, it's better liquidity stuff related to liquidity fragmentation. So in Gearbox, as you can see, you can add a different type of collaterals and set up different prices for different collateral types, what we just discussed. So it's create a flexibility. And for example, in Gearbox, we have such kind of a restaking ease pool when we gathered some RTs and related stuff. And if new asset comes, we just could list it into the pool, and people expect that this money are used across multiple restaking features to get the best opportunity. And another part why it's so cool that, for example, if the new pretty nice token come to the market, we can literally list it, and Gearbox main focus on security and safety. So you could not only set the rates, additional rates for the risk perspective, you can limit the amount of money, how much money you can really provide for this asset. For example, you have 100 million pool, and you can send deliberately, hey, you are able you couldn't invest more than 10 million into this RT, not more than maybe 50 million into staked ETH, etc., etc. So we create a very, very safe way to manage multi-collateral stuff. And then we already have like scripts, etc. things to make things easier. But now we are focused more on creating roll-up centric application. What does it mean? In this case, anyone can deploy Gearbox instance on any network. And we have a pretty unique technology which protect bytecode by cryptography. So now we have only 3 chains, but I believe after launching Gearbox permissionless, it's how we can really easily scale on multiple chains because the process of deployment is automated. It's an open platform. So literally everyone can contribute into Gearbox by providing different plugins, such as interest rate model. For example, now we use the 2 points linear interest rate model, but if you're a developer, you can invent everything and add similar to App Store for Apple here. So, and we get an auditor signature to prove that your code is wallet and non-malicious, and then risk curators could use. So we built a very, very safe way how people could contribute into the protocol, how we can really scale the protocol across multiple rollups and different EVM compatible chain. And it's done automatically. So I hope we will release it in 10 months or so when audit will be finished. And it will be a totally different way how people could come to Gearbox without deep knowledge of the technical stuff and launch their businesses, like lending businesses, create their markets, etc., and manage them easily.
It's kind of like App Store for lending, but yeah, it's kind of like App Store for lending, but we don't control listing process like Apple do, yeah? So actually anyone could add these blocks that later could be used for building lending services. The only thing that they require is to have auditor signatures. And if there is like one or two, like depending on some settings that we use there, if it has a signature, actually it could be later used in this like kind of app store to build lending service. And later, like anyone who wanna provide lending service, they can use these Lego blocks with already like having audit signatures, combine it together and build different lending services. And depending on what they and put together, it could be very different logic.
So let's actually talk about this for a second, because yesterday we saw an exploit on Ionic, right? And this was a social engineering exploit where a team faked having a token, said, we'll give you a $25 million credit line to list our asset on as collateral. And then, of course, we saw your typical sort of money market exploit. Now, my concern hearing this is that someone could come up and say, we want this new asset on Gearbox. And then, of course, they just use that asset as collateral. It's a fake asset. They pump the price, borrow a bunch, and then do your typical exploit. What does Gearbox have in place to prevent things like that from happening? If this is kind of like a app store bespoke, anyone can come in and play with it.
Yes, it's a great question. Thanks for it. So we use literally a system which focused on avoiding misconfiguration problems and phishing problems as well, as you mentioned. So for any network, we have some kind of instance manager. It's a role who manage any particular network. For example, for Optimism, it will be like an optimistic team. For Arbitrum, it will be an Arbitrum team, etc. And this team is responsible to support and list assets available for risk curators all together with price feeds. It's a very complicated process because in my experience, what we literally had in conversation for the last year, when L2 is launched, there are a few people in their team who are responsible to attract price oracles for different assets. They also know their network much better than others. And of course, we want to really hide all technical difficulties for risk curators and financial builders. So we really distinguish these two kind of roles. People who are responsible for chain could list a lot of different assets, and also this information available on chain. And we create a very clear system. So you could not create a market with any asset, but you can create market with any listed asset, and you can set off multiple different available price feeds to remove potential misconfiguration. At the first part, it sounds maybe a little bit limited, but if you go a little bit deeper, you can find a lot of advantages. The first part we can create, because it's a limited list of potential tokens, you can create amazing monitoring tools. So in Gearbox, we already implemented our analytics to analyze what's going with the system. And we also can analyze what's going with price feeds. All price feeds which added to the price feed store, it's how we called it, really could be compared on the monitoring. So we can really provide the fresh information regarding deviation from different assets. And as a result, building blocks are very ready. So we really try to simplify the way how to build markets on Gearbox and prevent users of different malicious and phishing actions.
That's great. So my like very low level understanding here is that there will be a set of whitelisted assets. The assets will be whitelisted depending on sort of whoever is doing the risk management. I don't know if that's like a chaos or gauntlet type entity on Arbitrum or Optimism or any of these other L2s. They'll have this set of whitelisted assets. These assets can then be used by these other entities for their own sort of markets, whether it be, collateral lending.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Wonderful. And then they can look at all of your different interest rate models and say, this interest rate model makes the most sense for us. We're going to use this one because of the assets delta or whatever kind of set of risks they're specifically looking for. And they'll also have some say over the oracles that, again, are being provided to them by the risk management team.
Absolutely. And one more reason why we are so focused on this part is also related to price oracles. We really have a deeper knowledge and expertise for the last 3 years. How complex it could be built a very robust system to get prices. In Gearbox, for example, for each asset, we have main and reserve price oracle to avoid the case when, for example, main price feed could be hacked and provide incorrect information. Unfortunately, there are a few hacks which happened in the past when someone was able to the price oracle or the related protocol got hacked, and then price oracle really returns something like, I don't know, very huge number, etc. So to remove this potential risk, in Gearbox we have a very robust system which uses second opinion each time when you recompute the collateral. So we protect it for many cases when price oracle could be manipulated. And of course, the idea is to simplify the process of building. We have some additional checks inside the smart contract to make the system more robust. And in this case, of course, some kind of team who are responsible for adding all possible assets with price oracle do not take it into account potential risk parameters here. So you just can prove that this asset is normal asset. This is USDC, non-phishing USDC, and this is oracle related to this asset. And that is, so you shouldn't make any decision regarding LTV, etc. You just add it to the store, and then risk curators could build their own pools and markets based on this information and price feeds you provided.
That's kind of cool. So it's almost like you have a price feed validator. So if one oracle is saying one thing, you check it against some other oracle, which feels at least semi-similar to like proof of stake validation, except at the oracle level, to make sure that nothing malicious happens. I love that. Now, I know people who watch my channel are probably a little bit interested in what I've been showing on the screen for a while, these strategies and APRs, and the ones that probably stick out a little bit, Athena staked USDE at 48.45%, and then some of the like Sky rewards rate. I haven't seen SUSD. What a weird thing to say. SUSD. That's a lot of S's. SUSDS or the rewards rate specifically as a wrapped asset many places. Can you sort of explain what this is, the Sky rewards rate and Sky savings rate, and how users have been able to get like over a 50% APR on these for weeks on end?
Yeah, sure.
These are ones that require borrowing Go to participate. I forget. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's kind of Maker has two options actually right now. Yeah. So first one, USDS, the stablecoin. If you stake it, you can get
either the rewards rate or the savings rate, right?
Yeah. You can get savings rate. This is like one possible strategy. Another one, they have staking of USDS to get Sky rewards. So like the EU token, like liquidity mining program. And it's kind of another strategy. So it's a bit different from previous one, where like pure stablecoin yield. And second one is volatile Sky farming, I say. So two options. Users could prefer. Working like logic behind it is quite similar. So you can open a credit account, put some stables as collateral, and ape it into a strategy you want to use. In that case, I guess you've got savings USDS, So yeah, all your collateral and borrowed USDC goes to staking. Like you just first it will be swapped to USDS, then it will be staked to SUSDS, and yeah, and you've got these staking rewards from Maker. Yeah, and as a result, you can get like 50% yield or something like that.
No, I won't make you shill the yields because that's my job. So don't feel like you have to do that. But and we'll ask you. You guys have done something that I love, and I've been harping on this for ever since I was liquidated on another protocol long ago, earlier in this cycle, for not checking the oracles. You guys have an oracle on your front end now, an oracle sort of tab. This is amazing. Oracle and LTs. First of all, what are LTs, and walk me through sort of this user interface?
Yeah, sure. So actually, as you can see, like different assets that it could be used inside this credit account, and you can see LT. LT is loan to value, actually liquidation threshold. So the higher this value, the more leverage you can get. And oracles design, actually, we mostly have like composite oracles that have few logic on top of it. Maybe Mikhail is a better person to explain it. So actually, as stablecoins could be also volatile. So for example, if someone drops in the market $10 million order, it actually could lead that price goes like down or up, and it creates some risk for passive liquidity side, for example. Yeah, because if you increase value of underlying asset, it actually shows that for the protocol that your debt amount in US dollars can be increased. It allows some potential manipulation vectors for attackers. And to eliminate it, we usually have some bounds for stable coins, like upper bound or...
It's literally upper bound. So yeah, it's literally upper down. This idea was suggested by Chaos Labs because we have a very modular system of the oracles. So literally, if I remember correctly, each stable is limited on top as 1.04 or 1.1, it doesn't matter. So literally, we do not expect that it's normal market condition. SDC could cost more than $1.1. Sounds crazy, really, because it's stable. And or maybe it's 1.04, and it's create additional protection because there is no way to really for stable and no even economical sense why stablecoin could cost more than $1 or some defined value. But it's create additional protection for LP because for some asset, as Ilgi said, potentially they are designed to be pumped, and then you can use what we called leverage. So because someone could pump for a short period of time the price of stable, it could really use for attack to the system, and then you can borrow users price and try to fool the system. Gearbox is very well protected, and here you can see such kind of pretty complex stuff. For example, SUSDS, it has some kind of ERC 4626 oracle, which takes some value from the contract side, and then we use value from Chainlink and bound it. So pretty robust way to make pricing safe, robust, and computed immediately for on-chain computations, and of course less manipulated.
Okay, so I think I sort of understand that aspect, which is you're protecting users by having these sort of bounds and limits on what the stablecoin prices could do. But when I'm looking at this directly, I'm seeing bounded oracles and then Chainlink oracle. Now, I know, for example, if I go over to, I think this is really popular recently, this Stakestone bearer for playing with the leverage there, I see something like this, right? A fundamental and Chainlink oracle. And users want to know, like, Bearstone currently a little bit depegged. What is their risk there when they're trying to either leverage up the repeg play, leverage up the points, or leverage up even the intrinsic yield that some of these pre-deposit vaults may have?
In this case, as you can see, the first oracle in the row is composite oracle. Yes, as you can see, yes, a composite oracle. So the idea here that in Gearbox, we compute all values in dollars to reduce the potential risk when the price if it can take the price in dollars for bearer stone and the price for ETH when you denominated in could be not synced, you can be liquidated. To eliminate this possible risk, we use a composite oracle, so the price of bearer stone all time depends on ETH, and we use the same Chainlink oracle to pricing ETH as your debt. However, using this composite oracle and redstone create a good combination. So from redstone, we take the price from bearer stone to ETH, and from Chainlink from ETH to dollars. And at this case, we can really make them consistent way of changing. So when Chainlink price will be changed from ETH to USD, it will be changed on both assets, on your debt and collateral. And in this case, there is no losses or unexpected consequences.
So my understanding here is that this composite oracle says, first it wants it's a fundamental oracle. So first it wants like the NAV of Bearer ETH. And once it has that, it says, okay, so that's how much ETH is backing that. That's what we're going to use. And then, but it needs to be able to price ETH, right, in dollars. So then it says, okay, this is the NAV in ETH. Now, what is the value of ETH? And then, so then it looks at the Chainlink oracle and says, okay, this is the value of ETH according to Chainlink. So you are not exposed to the depeg risks of Barristone, but you are, of course, exposed to the value of ETH if you're borrowing, let's say, stablecoins or, some exotic version of a stable against it. Is that correct?
As I said, the main idea here that we recompute everything in USD inside the system. And imagine you have some debt, and this debt is nominated in ETH. However, we compute the ETH value into dollars to compare how much you should pay back and how your collateral costs. So if we start using the oracle which gets bearer stone price directly in dollars and compare these two values, you can get the problem when the oracle of your debt updated faster. For example, this price is going up maybe like 25% in a moment here. So your debt for increase to this 25%, but your USD price oracle
Please make
not.
ETH go up 25%.
Yes, we already expected this. Yeah. And in this case, you can be in a situation when your debt increased in dollars because the Chainlink updates the price, but probably the oracle for your asset, which nominated in USD not, and you can be liquidated. To avoid such kind of situation, we make the ETH price consistent, and for this purposes, we use composite oracle. So all ETH-related assets or BTC-related asset use composite oracle, which means that USD value could not be manipulated by updating debt price oracle and collateral price oracle on different time.
And for those of, those sort of on-chain sleuths who want to look, you can literally just click on some of these and it will pull up the oracles. You can see sort of what kind of oracle you're dealing with. I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but it's pretty simple to just click on the contract, click read contract, and then get a description of what's going on here. So this is the Chainlink ETH to USD string. And then, of course, this is a Redstone fundamental oracle, just taking the NAV of Barristone, sort of denominated in stone, which is being priced as ETH. So that has been sort of fantastic and phenomenal. And you guys have also sort of really moved into the arena of points. Now, we won't get into point speculation, but I will say, I think you're one of the only places to use eBTC as collateral. And you guys have quite a bit of wrap Bitcoin / TBTC to borrow. So for the point speculators, this has been quite a bit of fun. But let me not get too sidetracked by yields. What else do you have going on that maybe I've missed that you guys want to talk about? Oh, and PTs. I mean, this is great. Leveraging. So we could get sidetracked a little bit. With the PTs leveraging, do you guys use the Pendle AMM oracles for these?
For our Pendle asset, we use TWAP. So literally TWAP for their prices and we rely on their contracts. So literally...
I think it's a 20-second or 20-minute, one of those two, right?
I forgot the way you made it.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute TWAP. I like that. TWAP for those in the West who like to use that phrase. So time-weighted average price. So if there is a spike in the IY, this could be dangerous if you're using a real-time oracle, but if you're using a time-weighted average price, it mitigates and smooths all of those spikes Luckily, Pendle is now a very liquid place, so you don't have the same sort of risks you would have back in the day, but you definitely want a two-op versus a real-time price feed. That's awesome. Okay, so we've looked at sort of all the yields, and we know that you guys have seeded quite a bit of liquidity here. Is there anything else a user should think of when coming to Gearbox, maybe for the first time, and playing around with it?
So yes, first of all, I guess user should decide like, is he wanna like ape with leverage, like get more risk, more rewards on it, or it's just wanna have some passive yield on some capital that he already have, don't pay attention on it. So in that case, we have earn tab, where you can just deploy capital to passive pools, get passive yield. As I said, like we are pretty safe. Live since 2021 with zero bad debt, zero security incidents. So we pay a lot of attention for security side, and already Mikael mentioned a lot of tricks, both technical and from like some operational processes. So like you can just ape into passive pool and get this yield. No need for like checking this position. They can't be liquidated, etc. You can just put money and forget. And if you want to like get more leverage, feel the vibe of crypto, of course, like leverage side is for you in that case. And yeah, we have a bunch of different strategies for Ethereum LRTs, staking derivatives, stablecoin issuance providers, and of course BTCFi, one of the hottest topic right now, I guess. So you can just choose what kind of strategies are better for you, and yeah.
Now, just to do my normal mining for alpha, you guys have said that you're currently on 3 chains, but looking to move towards other chains. Are there any other chains that are immediately on the roadmap or that you foresee a Gearbox instance sort of popping up on that you guys are excited about?
Yeah, right now we are focusing on deployment to Sonic. I guess it should go live in February. Yeah, regarding other deployments, our idea is that permissions Gearbox allows to bootstrap much more networks like in parallel. And that's, I guess, the idea of this feature, that the permissions Gearbox allows to do, like, to ship faster, to deploy faster, to be everywhere actually in a few clicks. That's the idea behind it. So after that, I guess we'll start expansion to other labs like more actively.
Yes, and the core idea, so the big vision here is following. So now we are work on integration with wallets. This integration could be done through this account abstraction standard. So literally Gearbox could create a new kind of account. Now all accounts are debit accounts. So there is no difference. Even if you use the lending protocols, you couldn't borrow money against asset on your account. Gearbox created a really new feature when users could borrow money against asset on their account without locking them. Just imagine, for example, you can connect real card, like real credit card, to your account. Then you have assets you can use for different strategy. At the same time, you can pay for grocery or for rental prices, etc., and borrow against your strategy, against your crypto, and pay in real world. So a lot of different things could be built on this technology. And because we consider these credit accounts as a really good part for any EVM chain, we try to implement this rollup centric application when people who are willing to start rollup could easily add Gearbox and credit accounts in one click to their network to provide this amazing opportunity for users to use credit account on this new rollup. And I was impressed during the DevCon. I've talked with some guy and they said, hey, last year we deployed around 3,000 rollups. So rollups is a very hot topic. Many public companies are playing with them, testing them, etc. And it's a crucial part of Ethereum scaling. So be in the frontier of this rollup stuff and create services as a credit account provider is a very good niche for Gearbox, and we are trying to implement this vision into real contracts and do it in a safe way.
And this has a much larger addressable market too. I mean, being able to use on-chain credit accounts for real-world use case, I think that's hopefully we'll see this in the near future. I remember last cycle, especially during the bear market, there was all this talk of like bringing T-bills on chain, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's gonna be impossible. The regulators will never let it happen." And now we have like 15 different protocols doing this, sort of billions of dollars of AUM. So even though these ideas might seem sort of out of reach now, teams like Gearbox are at the cutting edge of making this actually happen. Now, if people want to follow what's going on with Gearbox, if they want to sort of get in there and talk to the teams, where can people find you?
Or you mentioned conferences and events we are going to participate.
So go talk to these people in person at conferences, events, and then Gearbox.fi.
Yeah, so literally, I think we actively participated and going to participate in major conferences. So last year we were on DevCon, we were on Token 2049, we were on SCC. So major events are covered with us, and of course we are pretty open to talk with people. If you want to be connected online, you can go to website, Twitter, Discord, or Telegram to talk with us. And of course, we more focused on not only for end users. We believe that Gearbox could be a platform which simplify creating cleansing markets and do such kind of stuff. And in this case, we can provide a really unique opportunity for risk curators and for developers as well. So this permissionless, we believe it's a really breakthrough which could create a totally new way how markets could be done cryptographically protected through their code for safe building cleansing markets and avoid different mistake like misconfiguration, phishing we already mentioned, etc., to make these legal blocks more useful for people with financial background and people with software background who want to contribute and literally participate of creating these legal blocks.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. So whether you guys want to earn on your single-sided lending, or if you want to leverage some of these yields up crazy, or if you just want a multi-collateral position and sort of play with your ETH, BTC, and take out some stables and do whatever you want with that, go, I would say buy a Lambo, but at this point, we're probably buying like a Honda Civic. Maybe we'll be in Lambo territory by the time this video is released. Go check out Gearbox. It's well worth it. This team has been around for a long time. They've been building, and they are quite the lads. Thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone else watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Hello, thanks for the invitation, and never be liquidated.